I think it's best to begin this episode with some short stories I have. So, the first one was about a month ago. I was done with my work, I was done with studying, I was done with cleaning my apartment, you name it. Now was the free time for my hobbies. But none of my hobbies sounded interesting. I didn't want to game, I was too tired to work out, and I didn't want to make music either. And of course, it was tempting at a time like this to jump into my bed and watch reels until I needed to go somewhere later. But I knew this was bad for me. So for once, I actually decided to do nothing. I actually decided to sit with my boredom. And I realized how often that I didn't do this. This feeling was so unfamiliar. This was a feeling of sudden introspection, thinking about my life, the life I've created, the people I've met, the things I've done since years ago. And I'll admit that this feeling was surprisingly great. I literally sat on my bed and stared out the window at other apartment windows because there's really not much else to see outside my window. There's nothing to think about other than myself. And after 30 minutes of this, 30 minutes of sitting in the bed thinking, I felt great and I felt rejuvenated. I felt energized, and it was enough to even go to the gym when I was too tired to do it before. So, this was an instance where boredom actually allowed my mind to recharge. And this was true boredom and not using reels as a meaningless way to fill that boredom. The second story was a time when I forgot to bring my headphones to the gym. Most people would agree that this is a tragedy, but the thing is, I didn't even notice that I forgot my headphones. So here's what happened. This was a very strange experience, but I did my squat sets, and though I was bored between sets, I started naturally thinking about things, kind of like the other time I was bored. I started thinking about how my workout could improve. I started thinking about new podcast ideas. I started thinking about what my goals were with squatting. Then, after finishing my squats, I realized I didn't have my headphones with me because I had a habit of returning to my phone to change music every time I finished a set. And that finally kicked in after it was over, and I realized that no song was playing, and I didn't even have headphones in my ears. So, what is the common theme between these two stories? Well, if you noticed, it's introspection. It's looking inward instead of outward. Okay, and this is no mistake. This wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't just what I experienced. This is scientific. Your brain, when bored, activates what is called the default mode network. So that means two things. One, your brain is not in a nothing state when you're bored. Your brain is not just completely off doing nothing, and that's why you're bored. No, boredom is an active state in your brain. If you look at a PET scan of someone who's bored, you'll see the default mode network activated, which is a little bit in the front and then a little bit in the back. Second, boredom activating the default mode network explains exactly why I suddenly thought about myself, my life, my goals, and my plans for the upcoming days. So, the default mode network is a set of brain components that are involved in mind wandering, daydreaming, self reflection, creativity, and future planning. And this is exactly what I did, minus the daydreaming. But think about when you daydream. It's when you're bored in class, right? Or bored in a meeting, or bored at a family gathering, whatever it may be. Now, I wasn't bored in those sorts of situations, which is why I think I went to mind wandering and reflection instead. But yes, when sometimes that doesn't happen, you also daydream instead. Another symptom of boredom. The research also shows that boredom is an effective way to recharge. So if you're tired, like I was in the first story, and you don't want to do anything, and you don't have to do anything, then why not just sit with your boredom? Give yourself literally 30 minutes, and you will feel rejuvenated enough to go do something. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily good to be bored in all situations, right? Sometimes, yes, you'll be bored in important situations, but you should try to be actively engaged at, family gatherings, paying attention at meetings or in your classroom or when you're talking to someone who's trying to help you or in general, you don't want to be bored when you're actively engaging with someone and you should actively be paying attention. I'm talking about the type of boredom here that exists when you don't want to be doing anything. And you don't need to be doing anything. but you desperately want some sort of stimulation to avoid that boredom. That's the feeling that I'm trying to eliminate. So when you're bored, instead of chasing some external stimulus, turn your brain inward. Don't seek the external stimulus like reels or pointless scrolling or yes, video games can be a source of combating boredom, but it's different if it's a hobby versus something to escape boredom. You'll notice that when you actually employ this strategy, you'll either A, immediately reach for your phone and realize you're addicted to it, and that's what you do every time you're bored because you've never been bored before. Or B, you'll suddenly start reflecting, you'll start thinking, and you'll start brainstorming what it is you want to do, not just today or in a few days, but in your whole life. And that's really important. I think a lot of people, especially young people, are not bored enough. And because of that, they don't actually have a lot of important thoughts that are supposed to guide what you're doing and what you're thinking about. Because we're constantly distracted by music, by our phones, by every sort of entertainment possible. But that leaves us with no time to think, no time to reflect, no time to plan for the future. And if you don't give yourself time to do that, then what is really pushing you through each day? Are you really thinking about what your purpose is? Are you really thinking about what drives you, your motivation, your family, the relationships you care about, the good you want to do, right? You need time to think about these things, and that can't happen if you're always distracted. And so there's no better way to start practicing this than right now. Pretty soon, this video will be over. Please, after it's over, try to stare at the ceiling, stare out the window, sit still for 5 minutes. That's it. Set a timer. Don't check notifications. Don't use any sort of external stimulus to distract you. The timer is all you need. The timer will go off, and you'll know when it goes up because you can hear it, so you don't need to constantly check it. After 5 minutes is up, reflect again. Did it feel like 5 minutes or did it feel like 20? Am I tired? Am I energized? Or am I asleep? Do I want to do 5 more minutes? Or do I hate hearing my own thoughts and I couldn't do another minute? Regardless of the outcome, you will learn something from this. Feel free to share in the comments or in a DM or email how this goes, what you learned, and what you will do in the future using this knowledge that you gained. As always, stay mindful.